In the entire history of aerial warfare, there is one statistic that shouldn't be possible. 104 victories, 0 losses, in 50 years. The F-15 Eagle has fought in conflicts across the Middle East, the Balkans, and beyond. It has faced MiGs, Sukhois, and surface-to-air missiles. And not a single F-15 has ever been shot down by an enemy aircraft. When the Soviet Union saw what this machine could do, they didn't just worry. They realized their entire air force had become obsolete overnight. This is the story of the plane that was built to fight a threat that never existed, and became a threat no one could answer. Welcome to Shadow Works. Usually we talk about prototypes that failed. Today, we're talking about a prototype that succeeded so completely it broke the balance of power for a generation. In the late 1960s, the US Air Force was terrified. Spy satellites had spotted a new Soviet interceptor, the MiG-25, NATO codename Foxbat. It looked massive. It looked fast. CIA analysts warned that it could outrun and outmaneuver anything the West had in the sky. So the Pentagon wrote a blank check. They told McDonnell Douglas, "Build us something that can kill the Foxbat, whatever it takes." The engineers went to work with a single obsession. Their motto, "Not a pound for air to ground." They didn't care about bombing tanks. They didn't care about close air support. They wanted a pure air superiority fighter, a machine dedicated to one purpose, hunting other planes. Here's where history gets ironic. The MiG-25, this Soviet superplane that had Washington so terrified, turned out to be a paper tiger. Yes, it was fast. It could hit Mach 2.8. But it couldn't turn. Its massive engines drank fuel so fast it could barely stay airborne. And its airframe wasn't exotic titanium like the CIA assumed. It was welded nickel steel, heavy, crude, built for straight-line speed and nothing else. But the Americans didn't know any of that, not yet. So, to fight this imaginary superplane, they built a real one. The F-15 Eagle was an absolute beast, twin Pratt and Whitney. F-100 engines producing 50,000 pounds of thrust, more than the aircraft's own weight. This meant the F-15 could do something no fighter had ever done before. It could accelerate while climbing vertically, point the nose straight up, firewall the throttles, and actually gain speed going into the sky. Pilots called it going ballistic. Enemy pilots called it a death sentence. But raw power wasn't what terrified the Soviets most. It was the eyes. The F-15's real secret weapon was the APG-63 radar, the first with true look-down, shoot-down capability. Before this, radar had a fatal weakness. If an enemy pilot flew low enough, hugging terrain, skimming treetops, the radar waves would bounce off the ground, trees, mountains, buildings. All of it created noise on the screen. Clutter. A pilot flying in that clutter was invisible. Soviet doctrine was built around this. Fly low, stay hidden, strike before they see you. The F-15 made that doctrine worthless. Its pulse Doppler radar could filter out the ground entirely. It tracked movement, not just reflections. It didn't matter if you were hiding in a canyon or wave-hopping over the ocean. The Eagle could see you, and from 30 miles away, it could kill you with an AIM-7 Sparrow before you ever knew it was there. Soviet pilots realized they had nowhere left to hide. At first, Moscow tried to dismiss it as American propaganda, exaggerated specifications, Pentagon marketing. Then came 1982. Over the Bekaa Valley in Lebanon, Israeli F-15s met Syrian MiG-21s and MiG-23s in combat. Aircraft exported, maintained, and tactically trained by Soviet advisors. The engagement lasted days. The final score, 82-0. Syrian pilots would key their radios to call out contacts, and mid-sentence, go silent. Their wingmen watched them fall without ever seeing what killed them. Jets were dying before their pilots could even complete a turn. Soviet military advisors were on the ground in Syria. They watched their doctrine, their training, their best exported technology fail completely. The reports they sent back to Moscow triggered panic at the highest levels of the Kremlin. This wasn't a gap they could close with upgrades. They weren't years behind. They were a generation behind. The Bekaa Valley massacre forced the Soviet Union to scrap an entire generation of fighter development. They poured billions into a crash program. MiG-27 Flanker, a plane designed with a single purpose: survive the Eagle. And the F-15, it just kept winning. Desert Storm, the Balkans, Iraq, 40 years of combat and the record held. 104 air-to-air victories. 0 confirmed losses to enemy aircraft. The Americans built the perfect fighter to kill a plane that was never really a threat. And in doing so, they created a threat that no one could answer for half a century. The F-15 wasn't built by mistake. It was built on a lie the CIA told itself. And that lie produced the most dominant fighter jet in history. But while the F-15 was ruling the skies, the US Army was trying to conquer the ice. Join us next time for Project Iceworm, the secret city America built under the glaciers of Greenland. 600 nuclear missiles, miles of frozen tunnels, and a plan so ambitious they forgot to ask one question: what happens when the ice starts to move? Subscribe now so you don't miss the city under the ice.